Hello and welcome back to the Real Zero podcast with me, Daniel Grant.
And me, Hugh Montgomery.
Hugh, welcome again. How are you doing this week? And also, we often talk about things and, you've been saying that, oh no, you're at despair again. There's terrible reports come out. But have you seen good reports come out this week or this month?
Yeah. That's a good question. Have I seen anything that's uplifted me at all? Well, actually, you're going to come to our guest today because that's been the really big positive news story for me in the last week or so. But that's good. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I think I'm gratified to see some of the large-scale battery storage distribution appearing, and we've heard that in the north of England now and looking now towards Scotland as well. This business of now being able to balance the grid. So this story, as you're well aware, is that it's great when the wind's blowing, the sun's shining, but when we've got a flat, calm day and it's clank over, there's no power, therefore we have to switch on a fossil fuel burning facility to buffer the grid, to make sure that we can do it. And also, there are times when we generate so much electricity when the sun is shining, the wind's blowing, in the middle of summer, not using it, and we can fry the grid. So you need something to buffer it. And that's where batteries can come in. There are some other ways of doing it, balancing our use, the Internet of Everything. Imagine that your washing machine or dishwasher switched itself on when the sun was blowing, we were shining, wind was shining, no, the other way around. Wind was blowing, the sun was shining during the day. But the battery deployment in Britain, I think that's been very exciting for me. What about you? Anything that's uplifted you?
Well, yeah, I should first of all say that if you want to know a bit more about energy, if you go back to season 1, I think we spoke to Tom Parsons. We today is really good energy conversation, and one of many, because I'm sure we'll have many more energy conversations too. I had a conversation this week with someone who does urban farming and the shipping container conversions. Yeah, to that kind of thing, which I was really interested. And I thought it might be quite interesting to get him on at some point and talk about a new wave of farming.
Well, let's do that. But in the meantime, since I wasn't expecting that question from you about what's uplifting, the uplifting part is our guest today. So I was going to suggest that we let Lisa introduce herself.
Yep.
And then we can explore why I'm so excited about what Lisa might have to tell us. So Lisa, who are you? I sound like Cilla Black here for those of you old and forever. Who are you? Where do you come from? And what do you do?
I come from near London, but I currently live in Bristol, and I'm working for a company called Zero, which is a sustainable money app. I'll come on to tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Worked in financial services since 2000 and in sustainable finance since 2010. Previously worked at an ethical bank in Bristol called Triodos. And when I left Triodos, I founded a website called Good With Money, which kind of really sparked my interest in sustainable finance and what individual actions we can take with our money and the potential power that it has. And then, co-founded Zero in 2022.
Right. Well, let's move on to that. But let's first of all ask you the question we ask every single guest at the beginning, that you wouldn't be on this journey or on this podcast if you didn't realise climate change was a massive threat to everybody. But how long, if we don't act now, today, everyone listening to this, how long have we got before we see signs of civilization beginning to unravel, or before it really irrevocably collapses, in your view, if we don't act?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I've seen firsthand the impacts of climate change already. I was in LA in January, visiting my unwell aunt, and she was just outside the exclusion zone. She's 85. It would have impacted her, as it did many of the residents of LA, but it would have had severe implications if she had to move. She is bedridden. Obviously, absolutely terrible, exacerbated by climate change.
Right, so it's already happening.
It's already happening. I spent 4 years living in Thailand between 2019 and 2023. And again, the kind of the agricultural practices there are apparent in the air quality, terrible. Bangkok is quite frequently rated as one of the most polluted cities in the world. Our children were unable to go outside and play sometimes. They had to do all of their lessons inside. The flooding is just absolutely beyond thought. So yes, it's happening already. I can't make predictions about the future.
Right. So we've got to act. Now, the question, therefore, of course, is how we move quickly to zero emissions, which is why this outfit's called Real Zero. We're trying to get to as close to no emissions at all as we can. What's banking got to do with that? We've talked, we'll come to you in a minute as not being a bank, but why should I take any notice about who my money sits with? Why is that important to climate change?
So, fossil fuels, burning fossil fuels, deforestation, all of these environmentally negative industries are funding climate change. That's why climate change is getting worse. Our emissions, our carbon budget as a global economy has completely
long exhausted.
we've long exhausted it. Carbon emissions, increase year on year since the 1950s. So,
and the banks are funding this, right?
the banks are exactly funding it because they're profit driven. They've got to make a profit. And up until recently, the most profitable industries for these banks, in their eyes, has been fossil fuels, palm oil plantations, all of the environmentally negative sectors. So you may not realize that your bank is funding these issues. And actually, as an organization called Make My Money Matter,
Yes.
they have done some number crunching that revealed that the UK's top 5 banks, so banks like Barclays, HSBC, they have funded $550 billion to the fossil fuel industry since 2016, since the Paris Agreement.
Which is a truckload of stuff. And of course, if we could deny the fossil fuel industry of that money, that makes a difference. It removes the social license for people to behave in that way, and it makes it clear to other industries that the general public like us don't want this anymore, doesn't it? So there's an advantage.
Yeah.
Okay, now we've talked before then saying, well, okay, it's great. You could move to a different bank or building society. So I've been with Cooperative for years. They're great. They've never funded climate, they've never funded fossil fuels. Nationwide Building Society doesn't. They've got great customer service. Monzo Online is great, got good stuff. Why do we need a zero? And what is zero? What's different about you? And why are you getting into this crowded marketplace when you must have some secret sauce, right? Why am I excited about zero?
We have got 2 secret sources. But firstly, we believe that there is a definite, distinct gap for the zero offer. You've got amazingly, deeply sustainable banks like the Cooperative, like Triodos, who are doing great things and have got a strong legacy in sustainable finance. Equally, on the other hand, you've got the likes of Monzo and Starling, who their digital interface is absolutely brilliant. Think about how you manage your money. You don't even really do it on a computer anymore. You do
it's true.
You do it via your phone. So we are an app first e-money institution. So we offer a current account as the banks do. We offer a debit card, and we offer you our app. So it's all run through the app.
So you're selling me a digital product that's designed first to be digital, that's going to be spangly and easy to use.
Yeah.
Which is great. We all love that. And then what's the added value over and above having a nationwide or cooperative account, for instance? What is zero going to bring me that's added in this app?
So the whole idea behind zero is that we want to make it easy for people to be sustainable in their daily lives. And, your daily interaction, the thing that you use most is where you spend your money. So that is the most important thing to tackle. So through zero, we've created a metric to measure our personal impact called the Green Score. So you can go onto the Zero app and you can see the impact of your spending both on your Zero card through your Zero account, but also if you choose to link through open banking to your spending on your HSBC or Barclays, God forbid if you still bank for those, but your other bank accounts as well.
Brilliant. So this is great because we've talked about this before, haven't we, Dan? That whilst we point people towards moving their food to plant-based, moving their bank account, obviously, moving what they buy, how they travel, it's really hard, isn't it, to know where your footprint actually is. And in fact, just out of interest, in our office, we mandate that we all have to report our carbon footprint. And it's very difficult to do. I used 5 different carbon calculators, and I got 5 different numbers, which range from me being an absolute saint at around 2.1 metric tons a year to an evil sinner at around 12. And I can get any one of those numbers because they're just not very granular. So this sounds great to me that you're... And have you got a very good back end on this? Because we've spoken to Mike Berners-Lee before, who's a fantastic carbon footprinter. And it's quite hard, isn't it, to know what the carbon footprint of your can of beans might be because of where the tin came from and where it was smelted and where it was processed and where the beans were grown. And has that been a tricky problem to get the back end right?
So it's something that we're working on. It's certainly, we've got a way to go, and the more people that start to engage with the green score, the richer the data will become. At the moment, we're working with a number of partners to create the metric, and we have deliberately chosen to make it an abstracted number rather than kilos or tons of CO2 equivalent, because really, what does that mean to you or I? My carbon footprint is 7 tons a year. What does that equate to? And
you just want the number to go down, right? So and your score is going to be 0 to 100, or where's what?
It's 0 to 1,000.
Oh, good. So you've got lots of scope for nuance.
Lots of scope. And actually, the more improvements you make in reducing your footprint will give you a higher green score. You will then be able to compare against your friends, to see how how you're faring, or your family, or other people of the same age in your region. But none of these features exist at the moment. At the moment, we've just launched. It's a very simple metric, but the more people that engage with it, the richer the data will become.
And this is really good because I think we've talked before, Dan, as well, the George Washington University data some years ago showing that really the most compelling message to get people to change their behavior was what other people were doing.
Yeah.
That actually the biggest change on all of us is the fact that I happen to know Lisa, and Lisa's a good friend of mine, and she's now done this. It really, really encourages. And of course, some people are more competitive than others. So I am actually moderately competitive internally, and I wouldn't like to think that you've beaten me on my score. So, okay, but that's really good. So we can get a zero count now?
Yep, you can go to the App Store or the Google Play Store, and you can download the app and then apply for your card.
Okay, so I've got my score now, and you're going, I've got my card and my account, and you're going to introduce these other features. One of the things we've often thought about is the issue of circularity in the economy, because one of the problems is that if I don't know, let's move, I moved something very green and I save some money in doing it. And I then have more money to spend. So I go and spend it on something that's highly polluting. And in the end, the money is always leaking back into the fossil fuel stuff. And of course, the reward system as we currently have, Nectar points or Avios or whatever, are generally pretty agnostic. In Avios, they're rewarding sinning, carbon pollution in one of its worst forms, and the others are just agnostic. You're just buying any old stuff. Is there any opportunity, do you think, for Zero to change that? Can I, for instance, get reward points? Could you see the future where by buying very green, I get reward points that I can then redeem in that green economy? Is that something you've thought of doing?
It is, in a way. We are trying to develop our community. So new customers to Zero currently will be awarded our community share options. So I think new joiners get 400. We are looking at introducing a system in the future whereby if you recommend Zero to a friend, you will get more points.
So let's go back. So I actually, if I open the account, I end up owning part of the company. Is that right?
Yeah. So we're very aware of the benefits of the community ownership model, and it's something that we wanted to do to give our customers a say in how the product evolves. Whether there's types of product features that they would like to see, also to obviously keep us in check, because good governance as a financial institution or a financial services product is absolutely very important as well. So, by offering up 20% of the future value of zero to our customers, we hope that we can grow the community. And again, that's one of the most important things about climate action is being part of a community, that you can demonstrate what you're doing, what I'm doing, and remove the kind of inertia or the kind of fear of being seen to do something. So it legitimizes your actions.
So Dan, you're a lot younger than I am. I'm an old crusty male of 62, and you're probably half that. What are you hearing that's exciting you about this? Because if it's exciting me at 62, I'm guessing that this must be appealing to people who are younger than me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a couple of things immediately spring to mind. The first is, like you were talking about earlier, Hugh, just being able to understand what your carbon impact is in a way which actually makes sense, because like you say, you go on everything. It's always different. So it'd be quite nice to see what your money actually does. It's also very interesting to be part of something which is growing. And I'll look at things like, I do a lot of work in sport, and, universal ranking systems. This is a tangential conversation, which we'll come to it. Universal ranking systems, they start and they're all over the place. But the more people start doing it, the more people get involved, the more people engage, suddenly it becomes really accurate. And then you get to the stage where, for tennis, for example, it's really accurate. Video games, really accurate. But the question is, like, off the back of that, like, I think it's great they can be part of the company. The reward system, I think, could be really interesting. And I know that people are, there is a big debate about positive and negative reinforcement and which one is better. I know you come across stuff like this, Hugh.
That's a really good question. Actually, I was about to ask that question. So let's suppose I've used my zero card, and if I've done something very naughty that I perhaps, I don't know, wasn't aware of, I don't know, bought 100 weight of processed green string beans from Kenya that have been flown over here, or I took a flight, heaven forbid, to a long distance thing. Will it surface that forward? Will I see a sudden, whoops-a-daisy, you suddenly drop down the rankings, and I can see why that, and will it suggest an alternative? Would it say, well, actually, you flew to Paris, but you could have taken a Eurostar train?
Yes, it will do. Again, it doesn't at the moment, but all of that informative and educational content and the kind of the next piece of the puzzle is the nudge to do something as a result of that. So next time I can see you've just, bought a coffee in Starbucks. Did you use your reusable cup? No. Next time, think about going to a local, coffee shop. And by the way, here's 3 in your vicinity that you will go to. Another feature that is in development is enabling people either through a regular contribution or a one-off contribution. One of the, I don't know if you're aware, but obviously if you buy a high carbon purchase like a flight, I did it. I bought a bus ticket recently, and I was offered, did I want to offset my bus journey on National Express with, a 30 pence contribution to other carbon projects somewhere in the world. Now, we want to help people be more sustainable, and part of that is enabling them to understand what they can do about the carbon that they are emitting and have emitted throughout the course of their daily lives. So rather than offering the kind of obscure £6 offset via Ryanair when you buy a flight, we're not saying people are never going to fly again. We're accepting that our customers will probably fly, but what can they do about it? So we want to broaden their awareness around the opportunities for offsetting. And I say offsetting in,
Great. I'm going to ask you about that, because this is news to me that you have an offset option. And we've argued, haven't we, Dan, for quite a long time, which is why this is a place called Real Zero, because when people talk about net to zero, they're normally just lying. They choose a distant target, and it's magic pixie dust, because you can't capture carbon from the air with industrial carbon capture and storage from the air yet. That's not available, and it won't be, in my view, for a long time. And even if it were available now, the power costs of doing it will be colossal. So I think that's a way down. Planting loads of trees everywhere, we already know that most of the Californian stocks burned down, and you're only really temporarily storing it because they're going to burn down or fall down at some point anyway. So we've always argued a little bit against offsetting per se. So you're going to have to convince me that you're targeting the right thing. So when you say offsetting, are you talking about reducing future emissions or genuinely trying to draw stuff down? And if so, how are you? Give me an example of a way that you think works.
So
then I might challenge you.
no, we, there's, when I spoke to my husband about, what we were thinking, he's a geography teacher and he was like, offset's bad. Please don't do offsets. I said, no, but we're focusing on carbon removal. So we're not doing the traditional, would have happened anyway, solar installations in Africa, renewable energy plants, tree planting in places that,
they're going to burn down.
Yeah, they're the wrong trees. They're not going to come to maturity fast enough. So we are looking at the more technological side of things. We will absolutely, enable supporting of afforestation and reforestation to a degree in the right places, verified projects. But we are more interested in how we can help our customers understand the potential for the carbon removal market, which is, developing at pace.
So give me an example of that, because whilst we haven't yet got air source carbon capture and storage from a big machine, I'm thinking science fiction here, Dan. Can you give me an example of something that does capture carbon that is deployable?
Yeah, so I personally contribute to an organisation called Undo, which is a British enhanced rock weathering solution, which basalt, exactly,
right,
on farmland.
Well, this is fantastic. So, Dan, do you know about basalt and rock weathering and why it works?
Absolutely not.
Let me tell you a bit about it, because actually I was about to have a go at these there, because I generally don't like the idea of offsetting, because it's normally, we're going to put some solar cells somewhere that will prevent future emissions. That's not drawing them down. And tree planting in the wrong place, they just burn down anyway.
Yeah.
But this does work. So do you want to give Dan the sort of 101 on why basalt's good?
Yeah, explain as you would to a child.
Oh, well, I'm not sure I'm capable, to be honest with you, but there are a number of developing technological solutions that are very, very adept at sequestering carbon and do that at a pace which is way more effective than, trees will absorb the carbon. The important thing about the Undo solution is that it's soil-based, and the soils are the root of everything to do with our atmosphere and the carbon in our atmosphere.
So basically, basalt interacts with carbon dioxide or as carbonic acid when it rains, and it will draw down and store that carbon dioxide as a mineral in the weathering process. And that happens naturally. So basalt is it's naturally all the time exposed surfaces of basalt are drawing down carbon dioxide. The problem is you then get a surface layer that's saturated, and the bit underneath it needs to be weathered to expose the next layer that can draw down more carbon dioxide.
Right.
So the idea here is that you mill the basalt, so crunch it up basically, and then you've got a really high surface area that can draw down shed loads of carbon dioxide. And the really nice bit about that is it becomes a natural fertilizer. So you can spread that stuff, crunch up basalt and chuck it over pretty poor quality land. Not only have you drawn down a lot of carbon dioxide, but you've helped restore the soil and allow it to grow more vegetation, which will draw down carbon dioxide. So it's actually a pretty neat system.
Yeah.
And the only energy cost really is to crunch up the basalt if you're spreading it close to where the basalt actually is.
Yeah.
And there's, for instance, quite a lot of it in Scotland, where you've got some pretty degraded soil, so you don't have to ship it far. That's why we like West. Was that okay enough for GCSE level of
common entrance? Yes, I understand. Very much.
Far better place to explain it than I am. But if for me, if money was no object, having lived in Thailand and seen the degraded soils there, I would absolutely start doing
And
enhanced weathering in Thailand.
And I'm guessing if you've been in those necks of the woods and you've talked about being in the States, so I don't know if you've been down to Florida, mangroves, important in defending land from sea level rise and from storm surges, but
Yeah.
also pretty good at sequestering carbon.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, I'm chucking it out there. Is that something you have an interest in? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mangroves is the kind of one area within the reforestation element that we are actively looking at within this portfolio of solutions that we will eventually offer to Zero customers. I've been in the mangrove plantations in and around Thailand. I've replanted. It's a huge difference.
Well, look, so we've now all downloaded the app, okay, and we've all got the stuff, and now you've used our data, which is a good thing, to work out how you best evolve that app to give us feedback we need to change our purchases. You've now got a circular economy where I'm getting rewarded, and I use my rewards to buy more in the circular economy, which is really good. International? Would that be something that you'd like to do 10 years from now? Do you see Zero being Zero America, Zero Europe?
Absolutely. There's no reason why we shouldn't expand internationally. There are a number of sustainable banks already operating in Europe, but it's absolutely a space that we would be keen to explore. We're not in a position at the moment. We've got to build the product and build a customer base and develop the community and grow the community in the UK first. So it's absolutely our focus for the next few years is the UK. But
so what do you advocate at the moment? Should I download the app, move my bank account straight over, bish bash bosh, or do you, if everyone listening to the podcast did it, would it break you? Would you rather people moved a bit more slowly? Is there an onboarding process? How does it work if I go to the computer now or my phone and go? Where do I go first of all? Tell me where
go to the App Store. So go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store and download the app, and then
it's Zero, just if that's what it's called.
Yeah, it's just search for Zero FinTech or Zero Sustainable Money on the App Store. Would we fall over? We're a small team. We're a growing team, but we've got ambitious customer acquisition numbers, and obviously we want to prove that this is an appealing model. We do believe that there's a generation of, and by the way, this is like not my generation. I'm far too old. But there is a generation of people in this country who won't accept the climate consideration not being part of their everyday life, and they will just expect to be able to manage their environmental impact through their daily banking activities and their daily spending activities. We would absolutely say that it's at the MVP stage at the moment. So minimum viable product, which is developing all the time. So later this month, we will be launching Google Pay as a solution. So, you can just tap and go, which is absolutely fantastic. Apple Pay will follow soon after. We will then, explore some other the more core banking features, like being able to set up direct debit so that you can pay your mortgage or pay your utility bills through Zero. And again, that would give us, increasingly richer data for the green score.
So if I join now, the message I guess we want to put out there, me as well as you, would be to say, don't be frustrated if it doesn't do everything your current account currently does, because it's going to come.
Yeah.
But we might as well it doesn't cost us anything. Is that right? If I download the app today, I can just do that and no cost to me?
Absolutely. It's free. And in contrast to some of your, more traditional banks, if you have got a Zero card and you're using it overseas, it's free of charges.
Okay.
So the only exchange fee that you would use is the MasterCard. It is a Zero MasterCard. So you would use those, pay the MasterCard fees, but no additional charges, which is different to many of the other banks already.
Well, we're liking this because we always are terrified by the way the climate world is going, but we don't like people to leave feeling disempowered. We like them to feel that they can do something. And you've clearly given us an offering now where you can not only move your money out of the bad stuff, but you can move it to the good stuff. And also you've given me a tool which I currently don't have. And I really have to say personally, I would really like, don't you, Dan, but to be able to get that feedback and immediately go, oh, actually, I thought I was good, but actually I did have a better choice. Okay, I'm going to ask you the question we always ask everyone at the end as well, because we're all about trying to make it easier for people to do stuff. So what action or actions would you like everyone listening to this podcast to take? I guess we take it as a given, download the Zero app, right? On top of download the Zero app, what are the things that you've done in your own life that you could say to other people, look, just do this. It really is easy. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. The number one thing, most effective, is just tell other people. Ask the question, do you know what your bank is doing with your money? Your money has power. It has potential to do good and fun things that are excellent, and really helpful towards the future planet. It also has the capacity to do bad and to keep financing in industries that are, exacerbating climate change. So ask a question, what is your bank doing with your money? If you don't like the answer, then there are alternatives out there. Then tell other people, tell someone else. I think you have a tell 7 others.
Yes.
I had a bit of an epiphany moment last summer when there was a speaker who's great, by the way. He's called Mark Shaler. He was doing a talk at my son's school, and his closing point was, if you do one thing, move your money. I looked at my husband, and then my son, I wasn't sat with my son, but
he must have been chuffed.
He came, he came to me afterwards and he said, Mum, did you hear what he said? He agrees with you. I said, absolutely. It's a very easy thing to do. You don't have to switch wholesale. Try us out. Try Zero. You don't have to move everything, all your direct debits. You don't. By the way, if once we offer that functionality, then you could feel free. But it's a great first step. The more people that take imperfect, small actions collectively, we can start to see some change.
Yeah, we can. Right, Dan, anything else you'd like to ask Lisa? You've been sitting patiently listening in the background. More than...
Yeah, not too much to ask. Of course, no one has really got the correct answer when you ask that question yet, because we know that the correct answer is they should listen to the Real Zero podcast. So there you go. But Lisa, I guess my only question really, because we covered quite a lot. Can I get a 1,000 perfect score?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's like like Nadia Comaneci, was it? Or was it Olga, who was it? The Russian gymnast that got the perfect score for
10 out of 10, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
10.10. I don't know. It'd be an interesting challenge to see.
There you go.
Maybe we'll talk further, and you can have a conversation with our data scientist.
As a sport, you end the listeners.
Over that one, aren't you?
Maybe once you reach Real Zero, your score will be 1,000.
I think we're going to need some sort of external validation, like sort of the McDonald's gold stars. I need to be able to everyone see that my scores are 1,000.
Yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. I've really enjoyed it. And to your first question, Dan, I hope you now see why I was so excited to hear of what Lisa had to tell us. I think it's a positive, it's a good news story that empowers us all to take action.
It does indeed. Lisa, thank you so much for coming in. Great conversation. And Hugh, I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you for having me.
The Real Zero podcast with Hugh Montgomery and Daniel Grant. Produced by me, Daniel Grant, aka The Stealth Doctor, on YouTube and Instagram. Find out more about Real Zero by heading to realzero.earth and find out more about how you and your friends can start making a real difference today.